Oklahoma hosting Missouri in a must-win spot where their playoff hopes, I think, are pretty secure, are pretty safe and sound for now, but with how they play, with their defense leading and Mateer in the offense basically are playing the part of the clerk at the grocery store where they're on mop-up duty. They do just enough and they make it look nice, and they do a lot of key critical things. They're undervalued as service workers and retail workers often are. However, they're not the main piece of the pie, and they're not the biggest reason why the operation is running at the same time. Both things can be true. That is the case here with Oklahoma and their offense and their defense. And what happens when your CEO and your manager and your hardest worker are all on defense and not on offense is that sometimes you can get in a position where, things go well and the whole operation, the whole grocery store is doing well, everyone's doing their job, but sometimes you just have a bad day because when you're leading with defense, the margin of error is just smaller. And that's what I worry about with Oklahoma in these final two games, is they could perform well, much like Alabama in theory did against them. But the margin of error being so small against Missouri and LSU teams that have good defense and just enough offense to put something together and maybe emerge with a close win. That's why I think Oklahoma's only favored by 8.5 points here, even though healthy, and they are getting healthier, and Missouri is not. They're still only 8.5 point favorites and not double-digit favorites. Let's look at Missouri's schedule here. So, for the Tigers, not a lot of impressive wins, not a lot of impressive performances. Getting blown out by A&M, losing to Vanderbilt. That close game against Alabama was impressive, but their most impressive performances have been losses this year. And they're not healthy. Matt Zollers is their starting quarterback. Things have really slowed down after a performance against Alabama that had some, including myself, thinking that they would compete for the college football playoff, and maybe even after that loss, an SEC championship because of how well they played and how they competed. They have a chance to lose out here. They also, realistically, do have a chance to win out, given the style of play of both the Sooners and the Razorbacks. I almost said the Hogs there, and I think that would have been funnier to say, but I wanted to get that terminology correct. For the Sooners, impressive win over Michigan, impressive win at the time over Auburn, impressive wins over Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina, all on the road. Too bad they couldn't beat Ole Miss, otherwise this team could be staring down the barrel of 11-1 and definitely hosting a playoff game. The good news for Oklahoma is I think you miss the playoffs or you host a playoff game, which means your chances at winning 10 games is very much maximized. Like a 9-3 OU will probably be a matchup nightmare, since I imagine Mateer returns for any team they play in a bowl game. You get 10 wins. If you win out, you already are guaranteed 10 wins, and you might even get an 11th or even 12th, depending on how your playoff bracket looks. Oklahoma, when healthy, can be that good. So everything's in front of them. And it's been an amazing job by Brent Venables. I got criticized in my reaction saying that they had a program win over Alabama. Don't get that mistaken. It was. Because with the way Oklahoma's been recruiting under Venables, with the way some of their seasons have looked, and how some of the injuries and the handlings of the staff have looked for the Sooners, it was not always a good look. Winning that game shows that Oklahoma can perform at the same level as they historically have in this new, tougher SEC conference. That was not a guarantee. This channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package. And check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself and this channel. It's still not a guarantee, but at least we know that maybe, just maybe, it can be done. Even with all the changes, even with all the upheaval, with Riley leaving and that roster being put in tatters when he left, everything's in front of Oklahoma. This is just such a huge, wonderful season for them, and it makes college football better. that one of college football's premier blue bloods, after a few years of inconsistency, is looking like it's starting to wake back up. For matchups and key players to pay attention to, I'm looking at, for Missouri, Ahmad Hardy, wide receiver Kevin Coleman Jr., tackle Keegan Trost, and their defensive line with Zion Young, Damon Wilson, and Chris McClellan. Also for Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas, David Stone. Pay attention to them on the D-line. And then linebacker Kip Lewis, safety Peyton Bowen, defensive back Eli Bowen. For Oklahoma, John Mateer at quarterback, wide receiver Isaiah Satenya III and Deion Burks, and tackle Michael Fasusi. Oklahoma is inside the top 10 in points allowed per play. They're actually outside of the top 20 in yards allowed per play, but that's due to Ole Miss, that's due to Texas, that's due to Tennessee. They've had a very tough schedule, among some of the nation's toughest. They're actually outside the top 20 in yards allowed per pass attempt. It's not yards allowed per play. They are first in yards allowed per rushing attempt, allowing only 2.3. I mean, this front, and I saw it in that Michigan game where they played, in that Auburn game to a lesser degree, and then I saw it against Tennessee, against Ole Miss. I mean, their run defense and their defense just in general with Venables coordinating it is incredible. It's the stuff of legends. So Oklahoma is favored here. They are the better team. I also think they have the better quarterback. Zollers is unproven. He's been pretty poor in his performances. Mateer has not played to the expectation that many did. I was actually disappointed a little bit that I didn't completely come off of it, but I did a little bit, and I was disappointed that I didn't hold my ground more. Preseason, I thought that Mateer was just going to be an above-average QB, and that's totally right. Early on, it looked like maybe against Michigan, he'd be pretty freaking good, but he's just good and above average and has moxie and is gutty. But he's not a great passer, and overall he's not a great quarterback. He won't lose you games as Arnold did, but he's about to Oklahoma what I think Dylan Gabriel was, and from a passing angle, he's worse. He's just good enough to keep offenses honest, to play within the system, to also play outside of the system, off script, and make things happen. It's like the analogy I made earlier in the video. The stalker and the grocery store clerk that, makes sure everything is clean, looks nice. He's important. He's underrated. And at the same time, there is a reason he makes the wage he does, and the guy that has to keep tabs on 10 of that worker does what he does and has the job that he does. It's not that one inherently is more valuable. I know I'm getting beyond football here, but it's not that one person is inherently better or worth more than the other, but their position in the impact they have is. You can compartmentalize and separate out those two things. It's not insulting to say that Mateer isn't an elite QB. The numbers, the data, his film just say that. The defense is why Oklahoma is here. Literally. If not for that pick six, Oklahoma doesn't beat Alabama. That was a great play by Oklahoma's defense. And the turnovers they forced, the pressure they got, that was an amazing performance by Venables in that defensive unit. This gets me to my roster matchups where I think Oklahoma's the better overall team. I love Drinkwitz as a coach, but Oklahoma, after that injury to Pribula and as the season's gone on, has revealed themselves to have offensive issues themselves. They're playing on the road. This is a game Oklahoma nearly won last year. It's a classic revenge spot. I do like Oklahoma to win and cover. I think this game will be like a 20-9 type game where Oklahoma will lead and dominate, but because of how the offenses get limited by both defenses, it will be closer on the scoreboard than the actual game was. So the game will be much more of a dominant performance by one side than the final score indicates, and I think Oklahoma will be that dominant player. It will not be close enough on the scoreboard, though, for Missouri to cover. Love the Sooners here, and honestly, I love them to also beat LSU, win out, and reach the college football playoff. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.